There has been a press conference organized by a pastor in Dallas. He is representing or speaking for the family of Karmelo Anthony. Karmelo Anthony is a 17-year-old teenager who is accused of stabbing another teenager at a track meet in Texas. Now, the case has become a national case, in my opinion, for one reason only, and that is because the person who's accused of stabbing the other teenager happens to be black. The teenager who was stabbed happens to be white. Both have set up funds, and the fund for the defendant has now reached almost $500,000, I believe because of an assumption that because the teenager who's the defendant is black, he's being charged excessively because of the allegedly racist criminal justice system. What happened on April 2nd, the white teenager, whose name is Austin Metcalf, was at a pop-up tent at a track meet for his high school, Memorial High School. The defendant went to a different high school, however, was in the tent for the other high school. And the victim apparently asked the defendant to leave the tent. The defendant didn't leave. The victim tried to get him to leave and reportedly put his hands on the defendant. Defendant having before that said something like, "If you want me to leave, put your hands on me and let's see what happens." Unclear exactly what the victim did as far as putting his hands on the defendant, but some witnesses at least say that the victim put his hand on the defendant or grabbed the defendant. Defendant pulls out a knife, stabs the victim in the chest one time. The victim falls and is dead. The defendant, when he was apprehended, even told the police, "I did it," but it was self-defense. Now, again, there was a press conference today during which a couple things were addressed. About $500,000, as I mentioned, has been raised for a fund set up for the defendant, whose name is Karmelo Anthony, spelled with a K, Karmelo Anthony. And the family has recently purchased a new home, an Escalade, and the pastor who organized this press conference claims that the family did not take one dime from the fund, and that anybody that says otherwise simply does not know the facts. I want to go back, though. Again, this took place on April the 2nd, and Austin Metcalf, the victim, mother, and his twin brother made a statement, and here's what they said, number 4.
And then I saw him about to fall. I went to go over there. I grabbed him. I see this stuff.
Yeah, I understand. Best I can to understand.
Yeah, there was. You can see, you can picture what happened when what was coming out of his chest, and
yeah.
Y'all can visualize that stuff. I don't want to put down my mom right now, but I pushed my hand on there, trying to make it stop, and I grabbed his head and I looked in his eyes. I just saw his soul leave, and it took my soul too.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to ask you one last question. I've seen interviews with your husband, who I can hear in the side, by the way. I think he's there in the room with you. I saw an interview last night. Okay, someone else. Yes, okay.
Yes, sir.
But I have seen interviews with your husband in the last 24 hours, and it was remarkable to me that I heard your husband say, within hours of this, that he forgave this other young man, and he got there so quickly. And I honestly don't know that I could, and I just want to see, and I don't know if there's a right or a wrong place to be, especially as quickly as this has happened. Megan, how do you feel on that front today?
I am not like their dad. I am so angry at that boy. And it's just, just not fair. That's all I have.
I understand.
I'd like to say
It's not
is,
fair.
I'd like to say is, it's forgave, not forgotten, but I'm not at that point yet to forgive that kid for what he did to my brother. Because, 17 years, my best friend, just there in the blink of an eye, I lost him. So I'm not at that point.
That is the twin brother of the victim, who, by the way, was there when this happened. This took place in Frisco, which is a northern suburb of Dallas. Now, it seems to me, based on what I've read, that this is a simple case, but for the injection of race. And in the press conference you're going to hear part of, the pastor who organized it talked about race and race and race and race. The defendant is claiming self-defense. Self-defense is a legitimate defense, provided there is a legitimate fear of serious bodily injury or death. Having a verbal altercation over a seat in a tent, pulling out a knife and stabbing the person with whom you're having an argument does not seem to me to be proportionate, which is why the defendant was charged. Initially, there was a $1 million bond. A judge reduced it, and he's apparently facing charges of first-degree homicide. Whether first-degree homicide is a charge based on the facts is another issue, but clearly, in my opinion, the disproportionate use of force by the defendant makes him criminally responsible. The fact also is this: imagine if it were the other way around. Imagine if some white kid having a verbal altercation over a seat whips out a knife and shoots and stabs a 17-year-old black kid. Jasmine Crockett, Al Sharpton, Whoopi Goldberg, the whole cabal would be marching on Dallas. Now, the father of the victim did say he feels bad for his son's killer and did say he forgives him. Number 6.
It's very unfortunate that this other child decided to make a bad choice that's going to affect him for the rest of his life. I have compassion for every human being. This is not, I want to make this very clear, this is not a race issue. This is not a black and white issue. I don't want someone stepping up on a soapbox trying to politicize this. I don't appreciate some of the remarks I've seen online that people say there was this fight and they don't know, they weren't there.
And this father attempted to show up at the press conference that was held today and was denied entry.